When we're not diverse, you really constrain the number of users of our product. I'm a white, middle-aged American male. That means when I build experiences that likely resonate with white, middle-aged American males. That's a very limited subset of the people. So the more diverse the people are who build your product, the more diverse your customers are, right? So it behooves the industry to really have as diverse as possible people building products, because they're going to build things that there's a whole audience that then will love that experience, become engaged with it. And it just makes, it's not only being a good human to be diverse, but I always say it makes great business sense.
Welcome to the Sound in Marketing Podcast.
Today, we continue our conversation with Roger Kibbe, Senior Developer and Evangelist for Viv Labs, the platform behind Samsung's Bixby 2.
You know what's exciting about voice? It's the first technology. I had to learn to type. I had to learn to swipe on my phone, right? It's the first technology where the tech has to understand me. And so, wow, what an opportunity and a challenge. It's an opportunity because I can interact with things in such a natural way. It's a challenge because my expectations around a device when I talk to it may be very different than when I type on it. I think we've all learned when we type or we swipe on a device, oh, it does this and it doesn't do that. And I have to kind of learn how, you download a new mobile app, you got to learn how to use it. I do not believe that people think if I enable a new voice experience, I have to learn how to use it. They're like, I just want to talk to it the way I talk to anything else, right? To a human. So it's a big challenge in the industry, and yet a big opportunity to be such a natural way to interact.
And it's such an opportunity for, somebody who would not be able to use sight as much. Maybe somebody that has a handicap or disability, potentially somebody who's blind. I've seen like little tutorials of how some people use their phones that are blind, and it's insane to me, like how difficult that seems. And if they could just like use voice, gosh, what could they do? It would just expand what they were able to do and the speed as to it, how they could do it.
Completely true. Yeah, no, I've talked to several people where they were surprised, especially early on in voice. Some of the first heavy users were people who are blind, right? Because they saw it as an unlock. And so these people, some of the early voice experiences were built. People got all this feedback and they realized, oh my God, a ton of my users are blind. And they had such great feedback because they were so much more used to interacting via voice with things without a UI. And so, yeah, no, it's definitely an unlock. You think about blind, so I have, a challenge there, or there's situational challenges. People talk about voice in the kitchen. My hands are busy. I'm cooking, right? So I can't touch things. Or I'm caring for a child. My hands are busy, right? So there's kind of this situations where we can't do things. And then there's also people have challenges like blind or other things, or that's always with them. So great opportunities.
And kind of building off of that, we kind of started speaking on it, but what would be your perspective on the state of inclusiveness and diversity in conversational AI?
So I like to think of things globally, sometimes big picture, and then draw it around to the more local small picture. But there is something around near 800 million people in the world who are illiterate. And although the internet, there is something like, I believe the internet access is about 60% of people have internet access. That means 4.2 billion people don't have internet access. So I think about, there's this huge group of people who don't have internet access. And then there is a non-trivial portion, largely probably of them, who are illiterate. And so what an unlock voice can be as a technology, certainly to those 800 million people who are illiterate, right? It'd be a way for them to interact with technology in a way they were previously completely locked out. But I also think of, bringing a voice assistant may be a way to bring technology to and the internet and access to people who otherwise don't have it, because it's relatively cheap and inexpensive compared to some other technologies. So I get all excited about, kind of the world opening up with voice. But I think even if you think about, let's just take it down to, and I'll just talk about the US. So certainly the diversity of our population is not yet reflected in voice designers and developers. And, it's not only being a good human to be diverse, but I always say it makes great business sense. When we're not diverse, you really constrain the number of users of our product. Look, I'm a white, middle-aged American male. That means when I build experiences that likely resonate with white, middle-aged American males. That's a very limited subset of the people. So the more diverse the people are who build your product, the more diverse your customers are, right? So it behooves the industry to really have as diverse as possible people building products, because they're going to build things that there's a whole audience that then will love that experience, become engaged with it, and it just makes, you get another virtuous cycle where you build more diverse things, you get a more diverse audience, you get more users, it's good. I think when I look at voice, I think we're doing okay. And I say that relative to kind of the tech industry. And I say we're doing okay. So on a gender basis, we're probably doing better than some other areas of technology, which is heartening to me, but there's certainly some work that needs to be done there. On a racial basis, no, we have some work to do, right? I just don't see us as nearly as diverse as, like I said, the country is, or the world is. We need to go out and find those people with diverse backgrounds and diverse genders and diverse racially to go become part of the industry. One of the beauties, this is a new technology. So I would love us not to make some of the mistakes that we've seen in the past with new technologies, where the kind of same old built the new stuff.
Agreed.
Right? So how can we go and get people who've never touched technology before, bring them in and say, hey, here's this cool new tech. Hey, be part of it. Be part of it as a consumer, but I also would love to be part of it is go design it, right? Or build it. Because you're going to build super cool, interesting experiences that wouldn't have been thought of unless someone with your background was brought into the industry. So I could go on, but I think we're doing okay. But darn, there's a lot of opportunity up there. We need to keep on talking about it. And besides talking, we need to keep on acting upon it. It's kind of imperative.
I'm a white female, and my perspective is, my upbringing, what I've been surrounded by. That's not my fault. That's just what my perspective is. But like you said, it's limited. Just thinking of as simple as the default voice for GPS. It's always a white female. And my husband recently changed the voice on his phone for GPS. And I think it's like a black female or something like that. And it was surprising at first. But then it was so nice to hear, because I was like, this is more correct with my day to day. Like, I hear white people, I hear black people,
Sure.
it felt nice. And so I wonder if there's a way that we can even think of the default settings for what we do and be conscious of how we set them, because it's like a first impression,
You're absolutely right. And much has been written about the voice industry, and, most of the voice assistants, right, by default are female, right? Although I think Google's done I believe when you set up Google Assistant, it's 50-50, it chooses for you, which I love that. But you're right, it's not just male, female, right? It can be other ethnicities or other makeup. I think, one of the challenges also in voice that I didn't mention and just AI is, and there's been a lot of really good articles about that and studies around this, is there's a lot of bias in AI, right? Because the training data
Right.
is biased. And what happens then? So if the training data is biased that I'm building a voice assistant for, and then I go and try to use the voice assistant, and because of my accent or my use of words, it doesn't understand me, well, I'm kind of done with that tech, right? I'm kind of almost anti that technology. And so certainly not going to consume it. And I'm certainly not going to, like I said, I want to recruit a bunch of people from all kinds of diverse backgrounds who never touched technology before to start building for this tech. They're certainly not going to build for a technology that doesn't work when they try to use it. So we got to address that.
There is no answer for this, but I think what you said earlier is we just have to keep trying. We keep having to reinvent and just be conscious of who we're involving and who we're not.
And try to be to a point where I always say, when you're uncomfortable, you're doing well.
Yeah.
Right? So make ourselves a little uncomfortable with some of the things we do, because change comes from being a bit uncomfortable. So we got to go do it.
Right. And just like in recent times with our, the racial injustice that's happening, we just need to start talking.
Yes.
We need to start asking questions. And yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable, but that's because we haven't been talking about it. And the more you talk about something, the more aware of what's going on you will be. It just makes sense to me. But
first step is awareness of anything, of solving any challenge, any problem.
well, let's close on this. What has you excited about the future of Bixby and Viv Labs and their work together? What's coming that you're really excited about?
Yeah, so I want to answer this a little bit in the context, bigger kind of what excited about voice, and then I'll get back
please.
to us. I used to use this metaphor of we're in the first inning of a 9-inning baseball game. And now I like to say, well, maybe we're in the second and third inning, but they changed it into a doubleheader. So what does that mean? I mean, I think there's a lot of blue sky in front of us about what we can and need to build. And I'd say, I'm going to put where I think there's a challenge and an opportunity. So we need to make voice important. And I like to say voice assistants are useful, but they're not important. What do I mean by that? So if I said, hey, I'm going to take away your voice assistant for a week, you'd be like, okay, that kind of sucks. That's a bummer, but I can survive for a week without my voice assistant. But if I said I was going to take away your phone for a week, your mobile phone, I mean, I would be like, I can't survive. Like, how do I'm so attached to this device, right? It's such a key part of my life. Mobile phones are important. Voice assistants are just useful. What do we do to make voice assistants important? And this is my kind of why I get excited about the future, frankly. One, I love to see ubiquity. And you mentioned that earlier. No matter where I am, home, work, car, walking out and around, I need to be able to have access to that voice assistant. We talked about context aware and deeply personalized. My experience with a voice assistant should be different from yours. Mm-hmm. My experience right now, right? We're in the middle of a podcast interview, and that, if I ask a voice assistant something, should be one experience. On the other hand, on the weekend, when I'm kicking back and relaxing, it might be very different, contextually aware of what's happening and what I'm doing or where I am. And then finally, what I'd love us as the industry to do is, you know what? We got playing music down pretty darn well. We got creating kitchen timers down pretty darn well. What we haven't found is enough areas where voice is the best way to get something done. It's the best user experience. And I think we need to really work on creativity around, hey, here's a place where a voice interface in front of this is the very best way to interact with this technology. I think there's a ton of opportunity there. I'll bring this full circle back to Bixby and Viv Labs and Samsung. Look, like I said, I think there's a lot of a bright future there, but there's a lot of work to do. One thing that's beautiful, working for Samsung, and we ship 500 million devices a year. We're the world's biggest device manufacturer. So we have the distribution of these devices, the hardware going out. Now the challenge is, okay, put a voice assistant on those devices that works super well, that's fun, that's entertaining, that's educational, that really becomes, makes my using a voice assistant an important thing, not just useful. And then the future is very bright. So I'm super bullish on the industry. I think we have a ton of hard work to do, but hard work is fun. So kudos to the future.
It is a lot of work, but man, it's really exciting to, just be skimming the surface. That's how I feel. I feel like I'm taking in a little bit of everything, and it's fascinating. So thank you for being a part of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jeanna, really a pleasure talking to you today. I loved talking to everyone. And if people want to continue the conversation or keep in contact, I'll share them. The best way is on Twitter with me at Roger Kibbe. Pretty active there. So I love to continue. I love talking about this stuff. So let's continue the conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you for giving us that information. And thanks so much for taking the time and helping me learn a little bit more about Bixby.
Sure. My pleasure. Absolutely. I love talking about voice. I love talking about Bixby, and I love talking about this amazing future we have.
There is so much still left to do to really get this voice industry going, but there is already a lot here and available for us to work with now. So let's create it. Let's explore this amazing world of sound that, guess what, has always been here. Our brands already made sound. Now it's time that they make sound on purpose.
For inquiries on sonic branding development or consultations, you can find me at Dreamr Productions. That's DREAMR Productions.com, LinkedIn, and Facebook. You can also email me at Jeanna, JEANNA, at dreamrproductions.com. I'm very excited to announce that I will be launching a course on sound's power and influence in marketing in early 2021, where we'll be discussing what sound is and where it came from, the origins of advertising, advertising today and predictions for the future, sound's role in decision-making and buying power, and how our brains process sounds to create choice and reaction. To sign up for early details, go to soundinmarketing.com or follow me on all the socials. All links will be provided in the show notes. For more of the Sound in Marketing podcast, don't forget to follow, subscribe, and share. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and Stitcher. This episode was produced by Dreamr Productions and hosted, written, and edited by me, Jeanna Isham. Let's make this world of sound more intriguing, more unique, and more on brand.